Hi everyone, I'm Louise and welcome to my channel. I wanted to start by telling you a bit about myself and my website Life with Scoliosis and why I set it up. Also, I thought it'd be good to just explain a little bit about what scoliosis is because quite a lot of people haven't heard of it, even though it's fairly common. So scoliosis is basically a condition where the spine curves usually to one side, and it can also twist as well. And in many cases, such as in my situation, they don't know what causes it. So it usually happens when a child is growing, and it's more common in girls. So it's usually between the ages of 10 and 15 where it is noticed and diagnosed. In my case, I think mine developed around the age of 11 or 12, but it wasn't discovered until I was about 14, and by that time it was already quite severe, so I couldn't have any sort of non-surgical treatment for it because it was already past the stage of where that would be beneficial. So in my case, I was diagnosed with adolescent idiopathic scoliosis, which basically means there's no cause, they don't know the cause. So I was 14 when I was diagnosed, and it was a very scary time for me, mainly because I didn't know what was going to happen in the future, how severe it would get if I didn't treat it with surgery, whether I'd be in pain later in life. I was quite scared at the time, and I felt quite isolated as well because I didn't know anybody else with the condition. I'd never heard of it. I felt quite alone, so it was not an easy time for me. When I was first diagnosed, we decided that we would it would be monitored for about every year with x-rays, and it was what they call the watch and wait approach. So basically every year I would go for an appointment, have an x-ray and see whether it had progressed. I found all of that quite traumatic because each year I was terrified that it had got worse and that I'd have to have the surgery. Bearing in mind, mine was already really severe, so it was already over the level where surgery was recommended, but I was just too scared to have the surgery, and so they basically agreed to just monitor it each year to make sure that it basically stayed around the same point that it was. So that went on for about 10 years, and then when I was in my early 20s I started to struggle more. Physically, I had more pain. I had muscle spasms in my back. I just felt really uncomfortable all the time, and mentally and emotionally I really struggled. I was constantly worrying that it was getting worse. I was constantly worrying that what would my future be like if I didn't treat the condition. So I'd say those years were quite tough for me, and when I got to about the age of 24, well 23, 24, I thought that I can't live like this anymore, and I need to get it sorted. So I decided to look into the surgery more, what was involved, and I actually had the surgery when I was 24, and for me I'd say it was very difficult. It was a horrible thing to go through, very painful recovery, but I'm really glad that I did it because it transformed my life, and now I don't have it hanging over me that it's going to get worse, because it can't. So I feel glad that I did that in the end, even though it was a very difficult thing to go through. But I decided to set up my blog Life with Scoliosis, because I basically wanted, at the time when I set it up, it was just after I had my surgery, and I wanted to basically help and reassure other people that were going through a similar thing, and just provide a bit of support for people that were going through the surgery or recovering from the surgery, because I knew how hard it was. Going through all of that alone is very difficult, and you do need people to talk to, really. So I set it up initially for those reasons, and then now I'm 10 years post-op, so I've got a bit more experience now of living with scoliosis as an adult and living post-surgery. So now I use my blog mainly to, I suppose, share my experiences and try and inspire others, as well as raising awareness for scoliosis, because there's still a lot of people that don't know what it is. And it's important because if it's spotted early in young children, then surgery can be, in many cases, avoided. So now I sort of dedicate a lot of my time to trying to raise awareness of scoliosis, and also use my blog as well to inspire others, because I've achieved quite a lot of things post-surgery that I didn't think would be possible. And I think a lot of people, before they have the surgery or when they're first diagnosed, don't realise that you can still do a lot of things despite the condition, because you're not always given the information. It's you don't always know what's possible. So I thought I'd set up this blog to try and inspire those people. So I'm planning on creating regular videos to basically explain more about my journey with scoliosis. So please subscribe, and feel free to check out my blog, which is www.lifewithscoliosis.com. So thanks for watching, and see you soon.